The principle of structural somatic integration, the foot as the kinematic keystone. The professional body of work, specifically the texts dedicated to sports medicine, kinesiology, and physical rehabilitation, operates on the foundational truth that the human body is an indivisible kinetic chain. This chain transmits and dissipates forces from the ground up, linking every articulation from the toes to the cervical spine. In this framework, the foot is not merely a distal appendage. It is the crucial initial lever and shock absorber, and its mechanical integrity is non-negotiable for system-wide health. The dynamics of the triplanar foot. The foot's primary biomechanical genius lies in its ability to toggle dynamically between two opposing states, the mobile adapter and the rigid lever. During the initial phases of gait, heel strike through mid-stance, the foot must be flexible, allowing for pronation, flattening, to unlock the subtalar joint and conform to uneven terrain while absorbing ground reaction forces. This is the adaptation phase. Conversely, during the propulsive phase, pre-swing to toe-off, the foot must become a supinated, rigid lever, a stable platform from which to push the body forward. The irreducible principle here is that pathology arises when the foot loses its ability to transition effectively between these two phases. A chronically pronated, flat foot remains unlocked, leading to structural instability and excessive internal rotation. A chronically supinated, high arch foot remains rigid, leading to poor shock absorption and excessive external rotation. Both dysfunctions, whether treated by a sports massage therapist or coded by a physical therapist, fundamentally disrupt the body's equilibrium. Ascending dysfunction, the hip-core foot axis, the inclusion of how to release tight hips, twisted. Hip-twisted core book is crucial, as it illustrates the severity of ascending dysfunction. The foot's compromised toggle mechanism does not stop at the ankle. It dictates the rotational strain applied to the joints immediately superior to it. Knee and femur. Faulty foot mechanics drive excessive or insufficient rotation in the tibia, which directly influences the tracking of the patella and the rotational alignment of the femur, pelvis, and core. This rotational distortion translates upward, becoming a torsional strain across the pelvic girdle, frequently manifesting as sacroiliac joint, SI joint dysfunction, hip flexor tension, or chronic low back pain. The twisted core is often a necessary compensatory response to an unbalanced foundation. The first principle, therefore, dictates that proximal chronic pain often requires distal, foundational correction. Without addressing the root cause in the foot's mechanics, chronic issues in the hip and core are destined for recurrence. TEO. Role of neuromuscular reprogramming. The depth of the kinesiology and sports massage literature emphasizes that manual therapy is a process of neuromuscular reprogramming, not just mechanical manipulation. The sole of the foot and the surrounding tissues, such as the plantar fascia and calf muscles, are among the densest sites of proprioceptors in the body. These specialized sensory nerve endings continuously feed information about body position, pressure, and orientation back to the central nervous system. When tissues are bound by myofascial adhesion, addressed by sports massage, or are excessively taut, the sensory data transmitted is flawed. The brain receives a distorted map of the body, leading to protective, inefficient, or compensatory movement patterns. The therapeutic application, therefore, aims to restore tissue glide, break down the adhesions to allow muscles and fascia to move independently, improving localized circulation and reducing painful inflammatory mediators. Reset the sensory map. By applying targeted pressure, trigger points, and stretching, the therapist uses the manual input to provide the nervous system with new, accurate information. This intervention effectively quiets the nervous system's pain response and allows for the adoption of healthier, less guarded posture and gait. The kinesiology text provides the detailed anatomical roadmap, confirming that therapeutic success hinges on understanding the origin, insertion, and action of every muscle and its direct fascial link to the rest of the body. The fundamental truth of this principle is that pain is often an output of a faulty nervous system input, and the foot is the most strategic point for that sensory input correction. The principle of somato-visceral correspondence. The foot. As the energetic switchboard, the second major principle derived from the overwhelming consensus across the reflexology texts operates outside the strict anatomical bounds of the kinetic chain. This is the holographic principle, which posits that the foot is a complete microcosm, a condensed map of the entire body's systems, organs, and glands. This principle asserts that a systemic, often distant physiological state can be accessed and influenced through targeted manipulation of the foot. Zone theory and the energetic map, the core truth of reflexology, repeatedly cited in texts like The Complete Guide to Reflexology Workbook and the Everything Reflexology books, is zone therapy. This theory divides the body and subsequently the feet into 10 longitudinal zones running from the toes to the head, and transverse zones mapping the pelvis, diaphragm, and shoulder line. Systemic accessibility. This energetic mapping implies that imbalances, stress, or congestion in a distant organ, e.g. the liver, the adrenal glands, the sinuses, are mirrored by a change in sensation or tissue quality, tenderness, granular deposits, heat, at the corresponding reflex point on the Y. But the foot, therefore, functions as a powerful diagnostic mirror for systemic health. The goal of homeostasis. The fundamental goal of applying pressure to these reflex points is to stimulate and restore the body's innate drive toward homeostasis. Whether explained through traditional Chinese energy meridians or modern neurological pathways, the intervention is designed to overcome energetic or circulatory blockages. The principle is that the body can heal itself, but sometimes requires a precise external stimulus to initiate the process. The mechanisms of systemic influence. While the scientific language differs from kinesiology, the mechanism of therapeutic success centers on 3 physiological truths. A. Circulatory and lymphatic. Enhancement. The detailed foot massage guides emphasize the immediate effect of manipulation on local circulation. By physically compressing and releasing soft tissues, circulation is forced into and out of the foot. When applied to the reflex points, this action is believed to send a powerful vascular signal to the corresponding areas, flushing metabolic waste products, often referred to as toxins or crystalline deposits in the older texts, from the reflex point, and by extension, encouraging improved blood and lymph flow in the related organ or gland. The reduction of congestion, whether mechanical or energetic, is a shared first principle in all forms of healing. B. The vagus nerve and autonomic nervous system, ANS, shift, the most profound and clinically accepted mechanism linking foot massage to total health is the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, PNS. The sheer density of nerve endings in the foot makes it an incredibly powerful and efficient site for stress reduction. The application of systematic, rhythmic, and firm pressure, as detailed in the technical guides, acts as a potent signal that overrides the sympathetic fight-or-flight state. The irreducible truth is that chronic disease and pain thrive in a state of sympathetic dominance. By intentionally triggering the PNS, the rest and repair system, via the foot, the body is given a critical physiological window to lower its heart rate, decrease muscle tone, improve digestion, and prioritize repair processes. The ubiquitous mention of relieving stress and promoting relaxation across all the reflexology literature confirms this ANS shift as a core therapeutic achievement, regardless of the specific reflex point theory. C. The endogenous opioid release foot. Massage, like all forms of deep therapeutic touch, stimulates the release of endorphins and enkephalins, the body's natural pain-killing chemicals. This chemical truth provides a direct pharmacological pathway to the pain relief and sense of well-being described in the consumer-oriented texts. The foot is therefore a master trigger for the body's internal pharmacy. 3. The convergence. The foot as the foundational locus of health. The long-tail summary culminates in the convergence of these 2 powerful, yet seemingly disparate, therapeutic philosophies. The mechanical and the energetic converge in the foot, making it the unique and most concentrated area for fundamental health intervention. The holistic utility of the integrated approach, the collection of books, from the structural rigor of kinesiology to the esoteric detail of reflex zone therapy of the feet, establishes a comprehensive approach to the lower body that recognizes both structure and flow. Addressing the dual nature of pain, chronic pain in the hip or low back, structural pain, may be addressed by the kinesiologist correcting a faulty foot pronation. Simultaneously, an individual's inability to sleep or manage stress, systemic pain, may be addressed by the reflexologist stimulating the solar plexus or pineal gland reflexes on the foot. The texts affirm that both approaches are valid, often complementary, and center the intervention on the foot. The coding guide validates this work within the professional sphere, confirming that therapies targeting this area are recognized as necessary and compensable medical interventions. Scientific deep dive into the pre-massage. Warm-up. The foundational truth for pre-massage preparation is that cold, tense muscles resist deformation and are more prone to injury and protective guarding. Warming the tissue ensures a higher therapeutic yield and a more comfortable experience for the client. First principles of warming up the thighs, calves, and feet principal mechanism of action. Practical application. Thighs, calves, feet. Vasodilation. Increased blood flow. Friction and percussion. Increased mechanical friction against the skin and underlying tissue generates heat, which causes local blood vessels to widen, vasodilation. This delivers more oxygenated blood and nutrients to the muscle, elevating muscle temperature, which is essential for the next principle, effleurage and tapotement. Start with long gliding strokes, effleurage, using the heel of the hand, moving proximally toward the heart. Follow with rhythmic tapping, tapotement, with a loose fist or cupped hand over the fleshy parts of the quads and calves to generate heat and prime the sensory nerves. Viscoelastic change, pliability, temperature and compliance, muscle and fascia. Are viscoelastic materials. Their stiffness decreases as their temperature increases. Warm tissue is more pliable and less prone to tearing. A warmer muscle is more receptive to stretch and less likely to trigger the Golgi tendon organ, GTO reflex, which causes it to resist pressure. Skin rolling, broad kneading. Lightly pick up and roll the skin and superficial fascia, skin rolling. On the calves and thighs. On the feet, use broad, firm compression and knuckle work across the plantar fascia to break initial superficial tension without going deep yet. Neuromuscular habituation, gradual intensity. Starting with lighter, general strokes and gradually increasing pressure, progressive loading habituates the nervous system. This prevents the muscle from interpreting deep work as a threat, reducing the muscle spindle reflex, protective contraction, that hinders deep tissue access. Warming glides. Perform 3 to 5 minutes of light to moderate effleurage and kneading on the entire area, establishing a sensory connection and allowing the client's system to enter a parasympathetic state, rest and digest. Deep dive into massage techniques for specific muscle groups. Effective deep tissue massage requires not just pressure, but the correct direction and tool for the target muscle's anatomical structure and fiber orientation. A. The thigh, quadriceps and hamstrings. The thigh houses the powerful Quadriceps Femoris, Rectus Femoris, Vastus Lateralis, Medialis, and Intermedius. On the anterior and the hamstrings, Biceps Femoris Semitendinosus, Semimembranosus. On the posterior. Muscle group fiber orientation and anatomy. Deep massage techniques. Quadriceps Femoris, predominantly vertical. The rectus femoris crosses both the hip and knee joints, making it a common site for chronic tension and trigger points near the hip crease. The vastus lateralis is often the tightest and largest mass. Stripping with elbow forearm. Use the forearm or elbow to apply sustained, moderate to deep pressure along the vertical line of the muscle fibers, moving from the knee up toward the hip. Cross friction. Apply short, deep strokes horizontally across the vertical fibers of the rectus femoris, trigger points, to break up adhesions. Hamstrings vertical fibers, originating at the pelvis and inserting below the knee. They are key in hip extension and knee flexion, often highly tonic, tight, due to prolonged sitting. Kneading, petrissage. Use reinforced hands, one hand over the other, or knuckles to lift, squeeze, and roll the muscle mass, particularly at the belly of the muscle. Stripping. Use a deep thumb or knuckle pressure to strip the fibers, focusing especially near the ischial tuberosity, where they attach at the sight bone, and the tendon attachments at the knee, adductors, inner thigh, diagonal vertical fibers on the medial thigh, gracilis pectineus adductor magnus longus brevis, often neglected, contributing to pelvic instability and groin strain. Active release techniques, ART. Have the client gently contract the adductors, e.g., slightly lift or squeeze the leg as the therapist sinks into the muscle. As the client relaxes, the therapist can perform a deep, slow glide, stripping along the fibers. Requires communication due to high sensitivity. B. The calves, Gastrocnemius and Soleus. The calf is composed of the superficial Gastrocnemius, two-headed, crosses both knee and ankle, used for powerful push-off, and the deep Soleus, a single-joint muscle, critical for postural stability. Muscle group fiber orientation and anatomy deep massage techniques. Gastrocnemius vertical, superficial fibers forming the visible diamond shape of the calf. Common site for delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS, kneading ringing. Use both hands to wring and squeeze the large muscle belly from side to side, creating a mobilizing effect. Fingertip stripping. Use reinforced fingertips to perform deep strokes along the vertical fiber lines, moving from the heel toward the knee. Soleus vertical, deep fibers lying underneath the gastrocnemius, attaching only below the knee. It's often chronically tight in people who stand for long periods. Deep transverse friction. This requires sinking the fingertips through the gastrocnemius to make contact with the soleus beneath. Apply deep sustained horizontal pressure, cross-fiber, to the soleus, particularly in the central calf, working from medial to lateral. Thumb, elbow compression. Apply static, deep pressure to release trigger points often found deep within this. Postural muscle. C. The feet, intrinsic foot muscles. The foot contains numerous small intrinsic muscles, e.g. in the arch and between the metatarsals, that control arch stability and toe movement. Their tightness is a major contributor to plantar fasciitis and arch pain. Anatomical area target. Tissue deep massage, techniques plantar. Fascia, arc thick connective tissue and intrinsic muscles. Abductor hallucis, flexor digitorum brevis. Knuckle, fist. Work. Use the knuckles or a full fist to apply firm, moderate to deep kneading motions up and down the length of the arch, working from the heel to the ball of the foot. Thumb stripping. Use both thumbs to strip the arch, focusing on pressure that separates the tissues laterally as you move proximally. Toes and interossi muscles between the metatarsal bones, interossi, and small muscles that flex, extend the dio, toes. Toe bends and mobilization. Gently hold the heel and bend all toes back and forth to encourage range of motion. Pinching, twigging. Apply light pinching pressure or gentle pulling, twisting motions to each toe individually. Web space friction. Use a deep, small circular or friction movement with a thumb or fingertip in the spaces between the metatarsals on the top and bottom of the foot. Achilles tendon, heel insertion point of the calf muscles. The heel squeeze releases. Tension in the heel pad. Pincer. Grasp adjust friction. Grasp the Achilles tendon between the thumb and index finger and perform gentle circular friction with minimal movement to mobilize the tendon itself. Heel squeeze. Squeeze and release the back of the heel repeatedly to relieve localized tension. The application of all these techniques must be guided by the principle of client tolerance, ensuring the pressure is always therapeutic, deep enough to engage the tissue but not painful, causing the client to guard or clench.